For staying with the South African morning. Let's bring you this now. Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan says PetroSA is providing around 50 million litres of diesel to Eskom. The utility has burned through its budget for diesel and can only make purchases again from April next year. Well, Gordhan says a permanent solution is being sought. Eskom uses large amounts of diesel to run open gas cycle turbines that mitigate power cuts. So let's discuss this now even further with energy analyst Chris Yelland, who joins me this morning. Chris, a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. 50 million litres of diesel to Eskom. That's the announcement by Enterprise Minister saying that this has been provided for by PetroSA. Is it enough?
Well, it gets things going for a couple of weeks, depending on the extent in which these open cycle gas turbines are actually used. So they're not intended to run continuously. They're intended as peaking plant, running perhaps for short periods of day during the peak periods, but they are being used for extensive periods. So if you were to use them flat out 24 hours a day, that amount of diesel, though it sounds a lot, would only last a few days. Yeah, if you run them for, let's say, 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day, it may last 3 to 4 weeks.
Chris, with that being said, we understand that only until the 1st of April 2023 at the earliest can we, of course, see more purchases being made again, of course, because the utility says they've burned through their budget. But you had an interesting conversation with the spokesperson of Eskom. You made this public on Twitter. Any additional diesel has been ordered as yet? I mean, what was the answer to that, to whether or not there has been any additional diesel being ordered?
Well, as far as Eskom is concerned, they have not ordered. They don't have any outstanding diesel on order. Eskom. Of course, there may be other stockpiles of diesel, let's say at PetroSA, but Eskom itself has not ordered any further diesel. And this is all imported in the end, and so it sometimes relies on when the ship is docking.
So when the minister says a permanent solution has been sought, in your opinion, what's a viable permanent solution for them to consider right now?
Yeah, look, I think what he's referring to is an additional source of funding from the taxpayer, from government, in other words, bailing out Eskom and helping it with its operational expenditure on an ongoing basis. The bottom line is that Eskom, with its current revenue streams, is not sustainable. Levels of non-payment, by municipalities, we know that there's 52 billion rand of arrear debt. Levels of electricity theft very high, and further than that, Eskom complains that its tariffs are not cost reflective, and then the cost of servicing its debt is very high. So Eskom does have money, but that money that it's received from government, the bailouts that it's received, are reserved for repayment of Eskom's debt obligations. So that money is kind of untouchable for operational purposes. So what Eskom's really needing is sorting out this municipal arrear debt problem, and as Eskom wants to do, put up its prices, because ultimately it cannot cover its operating expenditure from its revenue. That's the problem. Right. That has to be solved one way or another.
One or the other, but also getting to more clarity, Chris, how many litres of diesel so far has Eskom burned this year alone to date?
Well, I haven't got the figure in litres, but it is 12 billion rands worth of diesel. Whatever you can buy diesel for at the wholesale rate for 12 billion rand is what Eskom has already used this year. Now that is double its budget, and we're in November. So there's another December, January, February, and March, another 4 months to go before the end of the year. So that figure of 12 billion, if one were to continue operating at the same pace and rate of diesel consumption as you have in the first part of the year, that 12 billion rand could rise to 16, 18 billion rand.
Yeah, and that's just Eskom alone. But when it comes to diesel burned by electricity customers in South Africa this year, we're talking about standby generators, of course, used to cope with load shedding. What does that figure look like?
Yeah, I've tried to get this figure, and I've asked Eskom, does it have any idea of how much diesel has been consumed outside of Eskom as a result of simply running, standby generators to get through load shedding? They have no idea, and to be honest, neither do I.
Yeah.
Because there are literally thousands and thousands of customers, small, medium, and large, who are relying on emergency standby generators, diesel-driven, and there's no statistics that I'm aware of as to what this could be, but it's no doubt very significant.
Quite significant at this point. Chris, I'm going to let you go in just a few minutes. Before I do, though, your comment, the person that was arrested at Eskom for tampering with coal and, the one found tampering with the diesel valve, we understand Eskom saying that investigations are ongoing in this regard. What do you make of this and these developments?
Yeah, this whole talk of sabotage and other criminal activity, whether it's theft of coal or supplying Eskom with substandard coal and using the good stuff, to sell for other purposes, it has been talked about for a long time. And it seems that Eskom has employed a private security company because, frankly, the police have made no progress, really. And this new company, part of the Bidvest Group, seems to be making significant progress in actually catching people red-handed. So it's another signal that the public processes are too slow and don't work properly, and companies are resorting, to private security to do the work of the police.
We'll leave it there, and I appreciate you speaking to me about this. Chris Yelland, energy analyst, speaking to us this morning. Of course, Public Enterprise Minister Pravin Gordhan saying that PetroSA is providing around 50 million litres of diesel to Eskom. But we understand because they've burned through their budget, a more permanent solution is being sought at this point. More purchases will only again be made around April of 2023.